What's up, YouTube? So, just jumping on today with my friend and mentor, Dylan. And, today it's going to be a very interesting video. We were chatting, just before this, talking about how I got started, the strategies that I used and that I used to get my first client. And we decided it'd be a good idea to walk through what I actually did, what Dylan did to get over 203 clients, and just spread some value, spread some knowledge so that when you guys get started with your agency, you can get your first client the same way I did in my first 9 days. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Alrighty, well, let me pull it up here. Okay, hello everyone. Now, if you don't know who I am already, I am just another SMMA guru that wants nothing more than to take your money and do nothing with it. But besides that, my name is Dylan. I started my entrepreneurship journey back in 2019. I started a local marketing agency. Over 2 years, we built that up to about 200 clients, a little bit over 200 clients. And although I looked very successful on the outside, I was driving a nice car, I was making a bunch of money, I had a whole staff, and I was living the dream, quote unquote, at 19, 20 years old. The logistics of the company were a little bit of a mess because at the time, I was very unexperienced and all I knew how to do was market and sell. So due to that, I ended up closing that company down and starting another company in the gym niche, which I scaled to a bit over $20,000 in the first 5 weeks, transitioned into done for you sales, ran into a little bit of trouble on the legal side of things, but that's another story for another time. Actually, there's a video on my channel where I tell that story, which ultimately had me wanting to move all my current clients to a consulting offer, which is when I started RSC. But we're not going to talk about anything like that today because my goal is to make it absolutely impossible for you guys to not sign 1 to 3 SMMA clients in the next 30 days if you just simply put in a little bit of work in order to make that happen. So you're probably thinking two things right now. Number one, what's this guy trying to sell me? I got good news for you. I'm completely sold out. The only thing that I actually offer to the public is Relentless Success Club, which is what Alex is a member, which is what I founded back last year. It is a high-level mastermind for entrepreneurs making over 5 grand a month to multiply their network and income together, but it is closed. So do not worry about that. The second thing you're probably thinking is, well, I mean, that's a bold claim, right? Like maybe you've been in the journey for 6 months, or maybe you're just getting started and you have no idea what you're doing. Like, you know, what are you to believe that you're going to get a client in the next 30 days if I have the magic formula? But I can make this claim because I know people like Matt Bison, who's currently working for Joel Kaplan, who, if you're, this far into the SMMA rabbit hole of YouTube, you probably know who Joel Kaplan is, and that's Matt Bison. So when I met Matt Bison, he was an innocent 19, 20-year-old kid who had a 4.0 GPA in college and no business. And within 59 days, it was actually 59, but we just say 60, he hit over 10 grand a month and he dropped out of school. He's now much beyond that revenue wise, and he's continued to scale. What the fuck just happened? And he's continued to scale his company. And you can see here he is working with Joel, and here is some of the wins that he's posting. Now, I also know Riley Wilson, who when I met Riley, he was making about $1,000 a month, and his girlfriend actually dumped him because he wasn't making enough money. 4 months later, he followed this exact formula. He hit over 11 grand a month, and more importantly, he's now seeking revenge on his girlfriend. I'm just kidding, but we all secretly wish that would happen. And next, again, you probably know this guy, Tony Lee. When I met Tony Lee, he didn't even have a client. A month into meeting Tony Lee, he was making about 2K. And then 3 months into meeting Tony Lee, he hit 17 grand a month using this exact system. Alex, who we all know, used this to make 15 grand a month at 16 years old. Leo used this to book 16 appointments in 1 weekend. Ian Sinkovich books 1 to 4 appointments a day with this. Ian Liao got his first client in 4 weeks with this. Chaz Marshall went from 0 to 3 clients in 3 weeks with this. Ishmael went from 0 to 4 clients and also went from 0 to 5K a month in 6 weeks with this. Stefan went from $200 to 5K a month in 3 months with this. Gershon, who's 15 years old, is currently doing 5K a month using this formula. A 15-year-old kid from Australia, and his time zone is messed up. So if he can do it, I'm sure you can too. Christian Rodriguez went from 0 to 8.5K in 5 weeks and has just recently been hitting 10K months using this. And it's also the one that I was able to craft by going from 200 bucks a month to over 200 clients and receiving awards and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to give you guys a disclaimer before we get into it. And that is that, this idea that I see so often, right? I see so often that people come into the entrepreneurship world and they're fascinated with Andrew Tate and Luke Belmore, and they are independent, strong, masculine men. And they come in there because they think of themselves as a lion, but then they come into the system and they become an entrepreneur and they watch Thomas Gannett's video on how to cold call. And then they follow Thomas Gannett's video cold calling script like they're a sheep, right? And so the point of this video is I'm not going to give you guys any scripts. I'm not going to give you guys any, tactics or anything like that. I'm going to teach you guys how to get clients, not the tactics and scripts that you can do, because I want the people who consume this content to think like a lion, not what most people do, which is hop into the med spa or the car detailing niche and think like a sheep. So without further ado, let's get started. So selecting a niche, right? So my first agency, as I was kind of talking about earlier, we had no niche. I worked with every single service. I did 10 to 16 hours a day. I was working only inside the business. Yes, I made, I guess, decent money, but I was only making about 50 bucks an hour, which when you're making, that kind of money, 50 bucks an hour is not that much. And on the outside, like I said earlier, I was winning awards and I looked successful, but on the inside, I was stressed out of my mind because I couldn't afford to hire good staff. I was only able to afford to hire entry-level staff, and I only got okay client results because I did no niche in every single service. So I wasn't able to dial in one specific offer. And then my second agency, I went one niche, one service, one offer. I increased my prices by 2 to 5x. I got client results that actually lowered my stress. Yes, I made good money again, but I was able to work a lot less in order to do that. And I was able to hire good staff that could manage my workloads, which allowed me to spend time doing what I like to do, which was work on the business and myself. So this begs the big question: which niche should I choose? And this is the simple formula that you must consider when you are choosing your niche. And that is resonation times potential equals your niche score. So resonation is how much do you relate to the niche and the people who work inside the industry. Now, why is this important? It's not because you need to follow your passion. As you should know by now, you always need to follow the money, but because it'll make sales and client relationships a breeze. So if I was to restart, I would probably go into the hockey industry, not because I think the hockey industry is some magic winning gold mine niche, but because I played hockey for 14 years and then worked in the industry for 2 years, and I literally know the industry like the back of my hand. So if I was to go and hop on a call with a guy who runs a hockey company, I know the problems that he's struggling with. I know the inside lingo, and I could relate with him and build rapport so much easier. And he would trust me so much more than if I was to go into the med spa industry and try and just make things up on the fly, which people would be able to tell right away. So that is why we need to ask ourselves, like, what are our hobbies? Okay. What past jobs have we worked? And what do we have an interest in? Okay. And once you've decided a couple different niches, you can, on a scale of 1 to 10, decide how much you resonate with your niche. So in my scenario, I'm going to give myself a 9 out of 10. The only reason I'm not going to give myself a 10 out of 10 is because I never actually owned a hockey company, but I pretty much worked with them as much for everything except for actually owning the company. So the second thing is the potential score. Now, there are many different factors that go into is the niche good or not. However, these are the main 4 that are going to account for 80% of the results. Just like anything, the 80-20 rule comes into full effect. And in this case, this is the 20% of the questions that we need to ask ourselves when we're choosing our niche that is going to yield 80% of the results. So are they easy to target? Yes. Do they have an evergreen offer? Yes. Are they in pain? Yes. And do they have purchasing power? Yes. So these are the questions that we want to ask, and these are the ideal answers. So there is obviously more factors that you can consider, but these are the main ones. And what I want you to do is for every yes that you get for your niche, I want you to add 2.5x to your score. So in my case, hockey schools, yes, they're easy to target. No, they don't have an evergreen offer. Yes, they're in pain, but no, they don't really have purchasing power. So I'm going to give myself a 5 out of 10 for that. And then to get your results, you want to take your first score and times it by your second score, and the result will equal your niche score. So in my case, I get a 9 for the resonation, a 5 for the potential, which gives me a 45 out of 100 for the niche score. So that's a little bit low. However, I would be able to leverage my marketing and sales ability to still go forward with that niche. But if that was in your scenario and you don't have experience in marketing and sales, I would take a step back and I would try and look for a niche where you can get over 70 out of 100 for your niche score. Now, Once you have a niche, the next thing for you to do is to pick a service. And when it comes to choosing your service, there is one simple rule of thumb. If you are selling a want, you want to use Facebook ads. Car detailing, home improvement, tanning salon, sports school, those are all things that people want. Now, if you are selling a need, right? Like my car just broke down, I need to go get it fixed. I woke up, there was termites in my house, I need to call the pest control. The toilet just broke, I need to get a plumber. Then you want to use a Google Ads. Now, after that, the next thing you want to do is definitely use high level, right? Full transparency, I do have a high level affiliate link, but guess what? I ain't going to give it to you in this video, and I'm not going to give it to you in this video to prove the point that besides, my affiliation with Go High Level, I wholeheartedly believe that I don't care what high level affiliate you link, or even if you don't use any high level affiliate link, high level is the best option for you to really be able to create an insanely valuable service to where you can sell the end result to your clients, which is going to make your sales so much easier. Now, Owen Drass, who is actually a member inside of RSC, he did this the hard way. He bounced around different service deliveries and different niches for, I think it was like 6 months, and he got nowhere. He finally decided to stick to one service, one niche, and within like 2 months, he was at 5K a month. Okay. Now, once we have our niche and our service, the next thing to do is set up our outreach account. So when I first started outreaching, I had a very low response rate. And at the time, I didn't fully understand why, right? This was my personal account that I did outreach from. It said I work with Fit Pros to add 10 grand a month to their business in 90 days, or I refund them. And then this was the other one, is the agency account. So I had my logo and I had a bunch of, really good claims, which, why would somebody, not want to talk to this person? Well, when you ask it like that, it makes pretty much sense, because when I was hitting people up, they knew what my intentions were. They knew that all I was trying to do was sell them something. And that is why when I switched to creating an authentic outreach profile that invited people in to my story and shared who I was as an authentic human being, my response rate went through the roof. So getting into how to create a lethal outreach profile that will allow you to start conversations with your prospects, the first thing to do is set up your profile picture. So the key to a successful outreach campaign is making your profile photo casual and appear as though you're a potential lead/customer to your niche. So example, if I was targeting the gym niche, right? If you're a gym owner, which one of these two people would you rather talk to? This guy who, might be interested in, going to a gym, or at least having a conversation about fitness, or this guy who probably wants to sell them Facebook ads, right? If you're a gym owner, you're going to want to rather have a conversation with this guy. And that is why you want to make your profile look like you are a potential lead/customer to your niche, or at least somebody who would resonate with your niche. Okay. The next thing is the bio. So the key to a successful Instagram bio is to not make it salesy. Forget the I help X achieve Y. We want to appear neutral, we want to appear authentic, and we want to invite people in to our story. So before I explain how to create the perfect bio, let me say that you do not need to flex achievements to try and prove your authority, fit every single thing imaginable into it, your topics, products, lead magnets, other links and accomplishments, or most importantly, state crazy marketing lingo. In other words, do not do this. I've learned this the hard way, okay? When writing your bio, you want to make yourself seem like you're a real person, right? Sharing lessons as I learn them on topics as your mission with the benefit back call to action, like how you can provide value to people. You can insert a quote, you can entrepreneur, that weird line that everybody does, and then hobby, right? One of the rule of thumbs that I like to use when I'm kind of coming up with a profile account is look at your friends who aren't entrepreneurs, right? Because those are everyday people being everyday people, and copy them, because we want to appear as though we're an everyday person as we do an outreach, so we can actually engage and initiate those conversations. And so people don't have sales resistance when we hit them up. So moving on, your stories and your posts. This is really simple, right? We don't want to flood it with random, carousels or offers or stuff like that. We don't want to do anything salesy. Just share real photos and real stories from your real life, right? In the beginning, we are getting our client. Like, remember, this is how to get your first to third SMMA client. When you have 200 clients, you're going to set up inbound, right? You're going to have prospects come to you. You're going to be posting content that compels people to build an audience and build trust with you so they can come to you, and so you can scale fastly. But in the beginning, we need to go to them. We need to go to the market and prove our worth before the market will come to us. And therefore, when we're going out to the market, we want to appear neutral. When we want the market to come to us, that's when we can create short form content and make offers and do all that kind of stuff. So the next thing is building your prospect list. So how to build your prospect list is real simple. Okay, this is the boring work that gets the results. Number one, you find high quality prospects through Instagram or Facebook, quickly add them to your list and repeat. So step one to finding high quality prospects. So option number one is to use targeted hashtags. So you want to think about what your ideal target audience is posting, not the masses. So if I was in the gym niche, right, a bad example would be fitness. And that's because everybody and their mom goes to the gym and does hashtag fitness. A good example would be hashtag CrossFit coach, because that is a hashtag that my specific avatar would be using. The second one, and the more effective one, if I'm being honest, is to use recommended profiles. And this is when you find one ideal target audience profile, you follow them, and then you can see the recommended profiles that come up, and you can X the low quality accounts. And what happens is over time, Instagram begins to learn what type of accounts you're looking for and begins to only show you those types of accounts. And you can add the ideal prospects to your list. Now, getting into your outreach scripts, okay? Hopefully you're staying along with me here. So Gershon Dhaliwal, who I mentioned earlier, he makes about $5,000 a month at 15 years old. And he does it using this exact outreach formula. So message number one is a response-provoking message. Message number two is your value proposition and your pitch. If they respond to your pitch, you want to call them up and set an appointment over the phone. And if they do not respond to the pitch, you can follow up with a bump. Then you want to follow up with a joke, and then you want to follow up with a Hail Mary. Now, I'm going to take a couple minutes here to dive into each individual script for you. So number one is your response-provoking message. Now, the reason we want to ask a question first is you want to open the door and engage this prospect in a conversation, right? There's a story about this energy drink company who was out trying to collect data and collect samples of their new energy drink. And they were going up to people in public and saying, hey, would you like to try out this energy drink? And with that approach, they're only getting about 10% of people that were saying yes. Now, what was happening was the campaign was becoming way too expensive and they weren't getting the data, and it looked like it was going to become a failure. So what they did is, instead of going up to people and asking, would they like to try out this energy drink, they were going up to people and saying, hey, do you consider yourself an adventurous person? After the person said yes, they then asked, oh, okay, well then would you like to try out this new energy drink? And the response rate went from 10% up to 80%, only because they opened the prospect up and engaged with them in a conversation, and B, labeled them with a characteristic or a problem, and then positioned their next statement as the solution to that thing. And that is why we want to do the exact same thing with our outreach, right? So when we say, hey, are you open to taking on more clients? And your prospect says yes, then you can be like, okay, well, here's how I can do that for you. Okay, so we want to use a response-provoking message in order to engage that conversation. Now, the pitch, okay? Now, there's 4 different types of pitches that I like to go for. Number one, and it's the most popular one, especially if you don't have any clients yet, is the full transparency. And this is when you basically reveal all your cards, and you say all the accusations that your prospect could possibly make about you before they make them on you. And what this does is it has the 8-mile effect from Eminem, and it basically, robs them of any ammo to use against you. And this is when you say, well, full transparency, I'm an 18-year-old. I just started my business 3 months ago. Right now, I'm in the process of networking, and I want nothing more than to provide value and, hear feedback on my experiences. Would you be open to letting me, help you scale your XYZ company in return for a testimonial, right? And when you have that approach, they're not going to say, oh, well, who have you worked for in the past? Because as soon as they ask you a question like, oh, who have you worked for in the past, and you can't back that up, you're done. But if you eliminate their ability to ask any question like that right off the bat, you're good for, okay? Another example of a pitch that you can use if you already have a case study is the case study pitch. And in that case, after you ask the response provoking message, you can be like, okay, well, perfect. Well, I actually worked with XYZ company and I generated them XYZ results. Would you be open to letting me show you the system free of charge? Okay, that's another example. The third example that you can do is the story, right? And that's when if you have a personal story related to your niche, or your service, or your offer, you can tie that into how that was created. So one of the people inside of RSC who recently scaled up to 10K a month, actually that Christian Rodriguez guy, one of his outreach message is something along the lines of, well, I actually used to call leads up for my mom's brokerage and I noticed XYZ problem. Because of that, I introduced XYZ solution so my mom can XYZ benefit. Okay, this, would you be open to letting me show you the system? And then the last one, which I typically don't recommend, but you can always give it a try, is you can say, hey, I'm currently working on this marketing project, and I'm looking for a company to partner with for XYZ thing. And you kind of position yourself as a student. Okay. I've seen, wishy-washy success with that. Some people are able to make it work. Some people are not. You definitely want to be in some sort of program if you're going to be using that one, because they're going to ask you, oh, what's the program or something like that. And you want to be able to show proof of concept there. So after you've introduced your pitch, the next thing that you can do is the bump. And this is just simply like, hey, just bumping this back up to the top of your inbox. You want to keep it simple. You want to keep it short. In addition to that, you can also leave a comment on their Instagram saying, hey, I just sent you a DM. Appreciate you checking it out. The next follow-up is the joke, okay? And I guarantee you that this follow-up is going to get you the most responses, right? This is the one that's going to get you the highest response rate. And that's when you say, hey, I noticed you left my offer on red. Is it my insert funny characteristic? So is it my mustache? Is it because my shorts are too high? Is it because of the funny hat I'm wearing? Is it because of my hairline? Right? You make a joke, and more often than not, your prospects will respond to this message just because it shows some personality and it shows that you are not a bot. And the last one is the Hail Mary, which is when you basically, give your prospects the out. You say like, hey, this is the last time messaging you, and something along the lines of that. So if I was in the real estate niche, an example of the Hail Mary would be like, hey, just a heads up, I'm started to work with another agent in your area. And so I figured I would reach out of courtesy one last time just to see if you were interested, because we only work with one agent per area. Either way, I'd appreciate a response, right? And that's an example of the Hail Mary. Now, the next important thing is to do your fucking outreach, right? The amount of time people come up to me like, hey, Dylan, I don't have a client, da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh, well, how much have you sent? Oh, I've sent like 42 messages. Like, no wonder, right? This is the biggest impact. Like, Alex has some
Yeah.
wild stories about sending like terrible outreach messages. But because he put in the volume, he was able to sign big name clients real fast. Okay. That is why I say, shut the fuck up and send 1,000 messages plus your follow-ups, right? And another thing too with this, which we don't want to be sending 1,000 messages just because I told you to and just to try and hit the quota. We need to be actively engaged through our outreach, right? We need to be taking in the market feedback and adjusting and refining our script, right? Like this, what I'm giving you right here, we want to look at that as, say we're making a sculpture out of wood, right? I am giving you the tree trunk, okay? But it is up to you to take the axe or to take the knife and carve out your sculpture, right? The tree trunk is the general formula. But when you consistently send the same outreach messages and your prospects are getting this response, this response, this response, well, then you want to make the tweak based on what you're saying. And that's why if you send 1,000 messages and integrate all the tweaks and feedback that you get, you're going to have more clients than you know how to service. And here's another example that I have, okay? What I want you to do is I want you to, psych hack your mind and put yourself in an environment to where, if you do not stick to your outreach, you feel bad. And that sounds awful, but people are so much more motivated by pain than they are in pursuit of something good. And so if you can put yourself in an environment where if you don't do your outreach, you experience pain, you are going to be so much more motivated and so much more incentivized to actually put in the work. And once you actually put in the work, you will get results. Okay. Here's a short little video from a friend of mine named Stefan, who once he put himself in an environment where by not doing outreach, he felt like an outcast, he found results.
Before I joined RSC, I had no clue how to make any fucking money. And then I seen everybody, people just like me, making money by just putting in work. So I decided I'm going to put my head down and work, and boom, just collected that 2.2K Stripe payment today.
And by no means am I telling you to join RSC. I don't care if you join RSC. You know, our only thing that we offer to the public is either sold out. We do have the first client challenge, but it's free. So I genuinely don't care. The reason I showed you this video is because Stefan put himself in an environment where not doing his outreach made him experience pain that forced him to do the outreach, and then he got the results. And that's why I say, you know, a tip is to find an accountability partner or a group, or put your money where your mouth is, right? Maybe give your friend $100 and say, hey, if I don't do my outreach, you get to keep it, right? Or say, hey, if I don't do 50 outreach messages per day, I'll send you $20, right? I don't care what it is. Money talks, right? Money is a very powerful and a very motivating source. And so if you can use that to your advantage to make sure that you put in the work to get your outreach done, you are going to see results. Well, Dylan, but I did my outreach and my account gets banned. Well, a couple tips to that is, first of all, only send about 10 outreach messages per hour. But you want to space that out so you're doing that, you know, 5, 6, 7 times a day. So you can still get, you know, 50, 60, 70 outreach messages per day. Just don't do them all at once. Another quick tip that you can do is send your outreach messages by responding to story or responding to highlights. Another thing is do your follow-ups, right? You can see this chart right here that I found off of LinkedIn that shows like the power of doing follow-ups, right? Most people stop after this message, but look at all the responses that you're leaving on the table by not doing your follow-ups, right? And when you do your follow-ups, it doesn't count towards the Instagram algorithm. Like you're not going to get banned from simply sending follow-ups. And that is why if you're not squeezing the juice out of every lemon that you get, aka your prospects, you're leaving a bunch of money on the table. Okay. The next thing to do is to call your leads. Okay. So Tony Lee, he went from 0 to 17K a month in 90 days. The secret to why he was able to pull this off is because he picked up the phone and he called every single lead that responded to his outreach. Now, that is why I say, you know, do not try and set appointments in the DMs. And as soon as you get a response, other than no, you call your lead and you book them in over the phone, right? If somebody asks you like, well, what's the price? Or, well, how does this work? Or whatever that may be, they're asking you that because they're interested, right? If they were truly not interested, they wouldn't respond, they would block you, or they would delete the message. So if they're asking you a question, if they're taking the time to continue the conversation, they are interested. And it's going to be very tough to communicate any value and convey any trust by being in Instagram DMs. Like, you have to remember, you're a random faceless person on Instagram that could easily be a bot that has nothing to do other than scam people out of their Bitcoin, right? And so how do we convey that we're not a bot that's trying to scam people out of their Bitcoin? Well, we pick up the phone, we call them, and we tell them our story, okay? So here's a rough script that you can do when you're picking up the phone and you're calling your leads. So, hey, name, this is your name. We connected over Instagram in regards to, you know, what you do. Does that ring a bell? So, hey, name, hey, Alex, this is Dylan. We connected over Instagram in regards to, you know, setting up some marketing systems. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, no.
Okay, well, yeah, okay, well, do you already have, you know, any type of system in place, or are you open to hearing ways to possibly, you know, get more clients for your gym? Whatever the case may be, right? This is obviously going to be different to your niche, to your industry, and your offer. But the point is first you know, remind them, you know, you introduce who you are. So it's not a cold call, right? You say like, hey, we connected on Instagram. Here's a reminder. And then this is one of the more powerful questions that you can ask. And basically, this is going to help you build a lot of trust when you call up your leads. It's when you ask them, do you already have, you know, what you offer in place, or are you open to hearing ways to possibly generate results? Because this does two things. Number one is it detaches you from the sale. It gives your prospect an out, right? And it shows that you're only going to continue this conversation if you can genuinely help them, right? And that is going to establish trust for you in your prospect's mind. And the second thing it does is it gets your prospect to verbally say, oh no, I'm still open to hearing how you can help me. Because once your prospect verbally says that, it subconsciously, will get them much more engaged in the conversation. So then you can go into your pitch. Okay, well, I can tell you a little bit about what I reached out to you for. First thing you don't want to do is you're going to want to insert your backstory. So if you pitch without first telling your backstory, you're done for, right? There's a story where I was once in a Discord, okay? And I hopped in the Discord. These people were cold calling. I said, hey, I don't think you should cold call. These guys laughed me out of the Discord like I was a kindergarten teacher who told them that we need to stay in for recess and work on our math, right? They got super mad. Well, the next day I posted a video about how I went from 0 to 206 clients with my first agency. That video went into the Discord. Everybody watched the video. I then hopped back into that voice chat and everybody was asking me questions. I was the same person 48 hours apart. The only difference was now that they knew my story, right? If theoretically I tried to pitch them on day one, I would have been laughed out of the voice chat, right? I could have pitched them anything that I wanted the second time I hopped in, and there's a good chance that they would have bought because they were very invested in my story. And that is why you always have to tell your story before you pitch anything. Now, the next slide I have in this presentation, it shows you how to create your story. But after you've told your backstory, you can talk about your service delivery, and you want to sell the outcome, right? So when I was selling for fitness and doing the done for you sales, I would hop on a 45-minute call with somebody and convince them to give me $600, and I wouldn't even tell them what they were getting, right? If they wanted to, get in shape so they could go to the park and play with their kids, I would say, well, it's $600 to get in shape and go to the park and play with your kids, right? And you definitely want to emphasize the fact and sell the outcome. You want to sell the end results, because the people that you're talking to, like if they knew how to run Facebook ads, and if they knew how Facebook ads worked, and if they knew all this stuff, they would already be doing it for themselves, right? And so if we spend too much time going into the intricacies of lead forms and all that kind of stuff, we're just going to confuse our prospect, and a confused buyer will not purchase. So after we've explained our service delivery, we can ask them if it sounds like it could potentially help their business. And then if they say yes, we can just schedule them in for a Zoom call. So the backstory formula, you want to first introduce like who you are, where you came from. And now I have a whole video called Strong Offers Will Not Help Your SMMA Unless You Do This on my YouTube channel, where I talk deep about how to create your own backstory. But here is the Cliff Notes version of it. So first you want to say your backstory, who you are, where you come from. Then you want to talk about your goals. I want to grow my business because of XYZ reason. You can talk about the conflict, like, what happens if you don't, accomplish these goals. And then you can talk about the journey, some of the things that you tried in the beginning to achieve your desired results. Then you can talk about the epiphany, which is the opportunity that you realize. Like, I realized that there's an opportunity in, the dentist niche to help dentists through this. And then you can talk about the framework about what you do. And the last thing you do is you invite them to help complete the transformation by offering to work with them on a free trial. Okay. So after you sign your first free trial client, you want to service that client, get good results. And then while you're doing that, you can take on your next client as a commission only. And then after you have a free trial client and a commission only client, based on the results that you get with those two clients, you can create a case study and then begin to sell your retainers, which will give you the ultimate security and cash flow that you are after, so you can scale without limits. So that is how to make it unreasonable to not get at least 1 to 3 SMMA clients in the next 30 days. I appreciate you guys, giving me a little bit of your time, and I hope that I returned in excess of the value in return. So with that, appreciate you guys, and I wish you nothing but the best with your SMMA journey.
Yeah, appreciate having on, Dylan. See you guys next time.